Hi, my name's Lisa. Welcome to How Tuesday at Lori's Country Cottage. Today I'm going to show you how to turn a simple panel into a fun and playful backpack for children.
Hey everyone! Today I thought I'd show you how to take pre-printed panels and make them, this one will be a backpack. Quite often the fabric companies come out with some pre-printed panels for tote bags, aprons, and backpacks to coordinate with fun lines of fabric. Important things to know with these panels is don't pre-wash. That'll just distort everything, so you don't want to do that. They give you a little supply list right on the panel, what you need. This one just needs some paracord. I only have white. I would have preferred blue or black, but white is all I had, so that's what I'm going to use. And we're just going to go step by step and build a little backpack. The instructions usually are written really well, whether you're making a tote bag or an apron, and it's just fun to throw something together really quick. So the first instructions for each of the pieces to cut them out. So I'm going to cut them out as per the instructions, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, I've got the pieces cut out. We've got the main panel piece, the pocket piece, the tab piece, the instructions, and then we have this really fun little leftover print. I'm going to save that for later. Who knows when I'll use that for something. So our first instructions are to prepare the tabs for holding the cord for our backpack. So what I'm going to do is I've got my iron on. I'm going to fold it wrong sides together and press. Then I'm going to fold each of these edges into the middle, press it in half again. This piece will be 1 inch by 5 inches. I'm going to stitch with an 1/8 inch along both long edges and then cut it in half, and I've got 2 tabs. So I'm going to go get that done, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, I've got my 2 little tabs made. They're both 1 by 2.5 inches. The next instructions ask us to take the main bag panel, fold in 1/4 inch, and then another 1/4 inch and press it and pin it. I think I'm going to use Wonder clips instead, but I'm going to go ahead and do that on both long edges. And then again, we'll move to the next step. Okay, so I took the single needle plate off my machine, put on an open-toed foot, and I zigzagged around the whole edge of that pocket piece. And then I folded in 1/2 inch all the way around. At the top of the pocket, I made sure to fold the whole top down so there are no raw edges at the top. And then I just top stitched 1/4 inch from there. Now it's time to attach the pocket to the inside of the backpack. And I've decided to attach the pocket to the back of the backpack. So that'll be the side against the child's body. And why I decided to do that is we're going to top stitch here, so the stitching is going to show. So I didn't want that on the front of the backpack. So here's the middle, the bottom of the backpack. I don't want it down too far. I don't want it too close to the top. So I'm going to put it right about here. They don't really tell you where. I'm going to pin it down and then stitch on 3 sides, making sure to reinforce the top and the bottom. So we'll get that pocket sewn on and then we'll finish the bag. So I've got my 2 edges turned in 1/4 inch twice. And then the next step is to do the same on the top and the bottom. So this is the top of my bag. I'll just show you on the bottom what that looks like. So we've got turned twice on the edges and then turned twice on both short ends as well. And these Wonder clips work really good just to hold that in place. Pins work great too. Now we're going to create the casing at the top of the bag. So make sure you've got the top of your bag, not the bottom. That's the back. This is the top of the bag. So the next instructions, grab your friction pen or a pencil, whatever you have. I'm just going to pop these clips off so that I can use my ruler, and they want us to measure 2.5 inches down from that top edge. So there's 2.5 inches, and I'll just draw a line there. And then we're going to fold to the wrong side. This will fold to that line, and you may as well use your Wonder Clip to hold it down. Just like so. Keep everything tucked in there. Perfect. Now I'm actually going to pin this because we're going to do some stitching and I don't want it to move, and I can't use Wonder Clips in the middle of my project. So I'm going to pin this down, and then I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch in from this edge and a 1/4 inch in from this edge, and that will create my 1/2 inch casing for the drawstring for the backpack. So I'll get that done and then we'll come back and keep moving forward. Okay, before we move on to the next step, let's catch something I missed. We created a casing for the top of the bag. I was thinking this is the top because it's got the dinosaurs on, but this is the front of the bag. There are 2 tops on the bag. So I've gone back and I have created the second casing on the other end of the bag. The instructions should say to repeat it on both ends, but you need a casing on both ends or that drawstring does you no good. So I've gone ahead and done that. Now the next instructions are to fold it wrong sides together, matching the tops. So I'm just going to steal one of these because I'm going to need to move those. So match your tops, your folded and stitched edges. And then we're going to take those tabs and fold them in half. You could do a straight stitch on here if you wanted, or a zigzag to hold it together, but I'm pretty confident I can just put it in. Measure up about 1 inch from the bottom and insert it a good 1/2 inch. You don't need a whole lot of room there. You want it really tucked in there, and clip it in place, and then do the same thing on the other side. So about 1 inch up from the bottom, and insert it a good 1/2 inch. And now we have our tabs in place for our drawstring. And now we're going to stitch our bag together, but we have to remember to leave the hole for the drawstring. So stitch a 1/4 inch and back stitch a couple times. That's going to be a high stress area. Then go to this second line, do some back stitching, and stitch all the way to the bottom. I'm going to reinforce over these tabs as well. And then we're going to do the other side as well. And then it'll be time to put the drawstring in. It says to stitch a 1/4 inch in, but you know what? I'm not going to use the full 1/4 inch. I'm going to stitch closer to the edge, but just remember to leave that hole for your drawstring to go into the casing. I'll do that, and then we'll come back and finish up the bag. All right, let's put our paracord in. So we've cut it in half, so we have 2 2-yard pieces. And I threaded mine into my purple thing. You can use a bodkin or a large safety pin. So you're going to go in one side, come out the other side. It's a little tricky to get past the seam allowance sometimes, but you'll be able to feel when you have done that. Go through our little tab on the bottom, and then come back up and go back in on the same side. And then it'll come out on the same side that you went in. There we go. So we've got one. And then we'll repeat it with the other one. but we're going to do it on the opposite side. Oops, I don't need that much. All right, so we'll go in this side. Come out. Go through our tab. And then back the other way to come out the same side that we went in. Now they don't actually give you the finishing instructions on tying these strings, but they do need to be tied or you don't have a backpack. So I would take these two and tie them, and then these two and tie them in a nicer knot that I'm doing right now, but just so you can see how it's done. And then I would actually take those knots and make sure they're fed right up to that. And then you have your backpack. And there's a great kids backpack. So just feed these things like so. And there you go. You can put those knots right inside, and there is your great backpack. All right, I just wanted to show you that I took those knots and I actually pulled them right into the middle of the casing, so they're not on the outside anywhere. Now we have a nice finished bag and no knots or anything. I also took those knots and I stitched over them with my sewing machine, and I put a little bit of tacky glue on them. The last thing I want is for them to come apart. And now we have a great kids backpack, complete with a pocket inside.
Fabric companies are providing us with panels for aprons, bags, and backpacks. And I hope you enjoyed today learning how to make this backpack from a fabric panel. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe by clicking the button below and ring the bell to get notifications whenever we post a new video.